Good evening, fellow patrons. In today's video, I take the newly released Crossbow up against Caltheris at health cap and break down the easiest way to delete this boss in very short time. This weapon makes this fight 10 times easier than it was prior to its release, and the most lethal attachments may surprise you. I also go over one simple but extremely helpful trick for this fight that I know most of you are sleeping on. I was really curious to find out what the pack punch ability, if any, would be for the Crossbow. I was hoping that it would have the monkey bomb-like ability it had in the original Black Ops, but I was honestly pleasantly surprised when I found out this wasn't the case. There was nothing super flashy about this weapon other than the fact that it makes enemy armor seem more like styrofoam. The penetration damage of this weapon is insane. It's extremely fun to use too, because I feel like the majority of us zombie players train hordes in a cluster rather than in a single file line. So it's pretty rewarding when you're able to successfully line up several zombies in a row and see that you killed 7 or 8 with one bolt. Although I think the bolt build you see in this video is the meta build for the Crossbow, the explosive projectile bolt is no joke either. Another great thing about this weapon is that there's only 3 attachments, one of those being the optic. With only 30 levels, I was able to prestige this weapon in about an hour of gameplay during Double XP weekend. The prestige attachment allows you to fire 3 bolts before reloading, and it takes this gun to another level. I could see this weapon being an essential loadout choice for the rest of the boss fights that release in BO7. The main focus of this video is going to be on the later phases of the fight, but for those who have not seen my previous video or are still struggling with this phase, I would recommend you predominantly use the Akita and pair it with the Lightmend Augment Booster Shot. You can heal up over your max HP with this equipped, and it will take a lot of pressure off you when you're getting hit by the laser. The Dragonfire, the Akita, allows you to activate the ammo mod extremely quickly. The Crossbow becomes the workhorse of the strategy in the last 3 phases of the fight. The hardest part of this boss is that its armor is so strong, and there is not a lot of weapons that could destroy it effectively. I found that the Crossbow and still the Breacher are the top 2 weapons to get through the armor layer. As the phases progress, not only does the boss's armor get stronger, but his movement speed increases and his attacks become more lethal. It's imperative, especially in the last phase, to generate as close as you can to a constant stream of damage. And it's really hard to do this when you're being bum rushed by the boss, avoiding the toxic boulders he throws at you, and the hordes of zombies that are all over the arena. Deploying 2 charges of toxic growth at the beginning of the last phase will slow down the boss and give you enough space and time to shoot your weapons safely. The tip I mentioned at the beginning of the video comes into play in the last phase as well. Before loading into the boss fight, place his C4 on the full power up in the pack punch room. You can detonate this in the last phase to get an additional field upgrade charge. What I like to do is after I deploy both charges of toxic growth, I pause my game and then switch to Frenzied Guard. If you have the Frenzied Fire Major Augment equipped, all your shots will be taken from your stock and you won't have to reload. This was my first attempt doing this field upgrade audible, so I was a bit antsy to grab the full power and got trapped. It was a poor decision to try to grab it immediately, and it cost me 3 dying wish charges. I don't even think this raindrops was necessary here. As you can see, I pick up the full power before deploying my Frenzy Guard, so it ended up being a huge waste. The insta-kill makes your weapons inflict a bit more damage on the boss, but you can live without it. Free fire and shields up are far more important, and I would highly recommend them for the last phase of this fight. This phase really does go by fast if you're able to deploy your toxic growth and manage to add Frenzy Guard into the mix, but that's essentially the entire strat. If you need a more in-depth guide, I will have a link in the description for my previous video. I appreciate you guys watching. JJet out.
Healing up.
You are blessed to be touched by divinity.